News again, where when the Confederation of African Football awarded Kenya the hosting rights of the 2018 African Nation Championship, it was greeted with excitement, and that at last the country has a perfect opportunity to develop its sports infrastructure. However, with less than 9 months to kick off Africa's second-tier soccer fiesta and the IAAF Youth Championship this July, that excitement has been replaced with despair. CAF inspectors were in the country this past week, and from initial reports, they are not happy with facilities put forward by the Football Kenya Federation. Kipchoge Keino Stadium in Eldoret, Machako Stadium, Kinoru in Meru, Afran in Nakuru, and Nyayo Stadium have drawn long yawns from the Continental Chiefs. Despite assurances by CAF that the continental body is determined to have Kenya host the tournament, a lot of work needs to be done to bring those facilities anywhere near acceptable standards. The question is, will Kenya hack it this time around, having passed over the opportunity to host the African Nations Cup in 1996? To discuss this and more are Francis Gaido, FIFA-accredited international match agent, and Milton Nyakundi, Director, Mid-Nord Communications, and Ken Nato, a freelance journalist. Guys, welcome to our studio this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us. How was your weekend? If I may start with you, Milton, of course, knowing that you are an ardent Manchester United follower. Must have been a good one.
A beautiful weekend, a very good end to have Ibrahimovic, score his 26th goal to give us the EFL Cup. I think that was a very, very good thing. And I'm looking forward that this gives the Red Devils the lift to be able to, go ahead and do what they're supposed to do. But beyond that, I think I was also impressed by the Tokyo Marathon and how our athletes performed. You remember Kipsang giving his target as 2:02:50, and he was just within less than a minute of that. And I think that was very, very impressive.
Thank you very much. We are getting information that the Communications Authority is meeting broadcasters today in Nairobi to discuss, among other issues, election coverage and how the media houses will conduct their business. And my director tells me that information should be coming any time now. But then let's just move on, Gaido.
Yes.
How was your weekend?
I was okay. We have a WhatsApp group called Football Africa Arena. And
a vocal member of that WhatsApp group.
Yes, and we had a campaign called Football Against Xenophobia. I think you've been following what's been happening in South Africa. And we were trying to use football and our voices, our social media, to just raise awareness and profile how football can be used to surmount and to overcome some of these challenges which are being faced in South Africa and even anywhere else in the world. So we did that. It trended in like 6 countries, South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya. So that was my highlight of the weekend.
Football Africa Arena is one of those fastest growing WhatsApp groups, and I think I've had an opportunity to sift through what people have to discuss on the continent. But then Ken Nato, I could see you scratching your head. Is it part of the headache provided by our preparedness or lack of it to host the IAAF this coming July?
Yeah, we had those inspectors from the IAAF, but what they talked is the preparations are ongoing, they're on course, and to some extent now there's some seriousness.
We will be talking about that seriousness very soon, because one of the things that we all know, you covered it over during the week, the past week, that Kenya is supposed to host the African Nation Championship in January, and more so also the IAAF Youth Championship in Nairobi here. But a lot of people are saying this is really going at a snail's pace.
I think legitimate concerns, if you ask me, in terms of how prepared we are. But for me, I think the biggest concern is that we have a government that came on the premise that we would have international competitions. And, they've been lucky that IAAF gave us a flagship event, the World Youth Championships. And then against very many odds and doubts, the immediate former regime of the Football Kenya Federation was able to deliver hosting rights for the CHAN. But I think if you look at how everything has panned out, we've been very slow. But, you know, coming into the events of the last few weeks, I think my greatest concern is how, you know, the two federations want to make these events more exclusive, yet we know that this, I mean, it's the people of Kenya that are supposed to host. It needs the goodwill of everybody. And if you look at the attitude, I'm sorry to say, that some of those officials from those federations are coming out with is that this is their thing, it is for them. And I know people like Gaido are very worried because when will they have the opportunity to be able to contribute the goodwill, to contribute the ideas, the experience? If you're getting, for example, the constitution, the composition of the LOC, and I'm saying this with a lot of respect, when the same folks serving in the federation now serving in the LOC, then it takes away the whole idea of an inclusive, you know, event that all of us are able to participate in. And above all, that the people of Kenya who are going to spend a lot of, I mean, I was looking at the CHAN budget, 2.7 billion shillings, going into it directly from the exchequer.
Yes.
If you're going to have the same individuals running a semi-autonomous body called FKF, still running, you know, this LOC, then the people like Gaido, their experience and everything is trash.
What Milton is trying to bring out here is, you know, this a series of issues, a series of problems, you know, roll into one, and we cannot really now even draw a line between them. We have the organization on one part, and then we have the stadia to be put at the disposal of CAF to host the African Nation Championship. I don't know, where do we start even, Gaido? In terms of facilities, organization and all that.
Yes, I was first confused when I heard the minister, sports minister Wario, saying that 2.7 billion has been allocated for CHAN. So I don't know whether it's for just for rehabilitating stadiums alone, or
logistics,
or operationalizing the LOC. Yes. That's the confusion, number one. Number two, we are talking about the time gap between now and January 2018.
Yes.
You know the bureaucracy in Kenya, the tenders. The tenderpreneurs have to come, they have to inflate budgets. So when I look at, they have to inflate the budgets, they have to... Have
those been factored into
I don't know whether they've been factored in the 2.7 billion, because if half of the budget will go to corruption, then 2.7 billion is a small amount of money. Finally, as you all know, the decision to award Kenya the CHAN was a political decision. We have seen CAF...
Political as in...
It was a political decision. Kenya does not deserve to host a football tournament of that magnitude because of our lack of infrastructure. But, you know, we...
I've got to look at those pictures, you know, flashing across there. That's the infrastructure, the best we can offer the continent.
Yes. So we didn't really deserve at that particular juncture, but the people who made the decision knew that Kenya is a strategic country, a hub for transport, good roads, good infrastructure. You know, the nightlife in Kenya is okay as compared to many countries. Beautiful women for fans who are visiting the country. So it was a political decision, really, which was made to award CHAN. Now, I think there's an onslaught from Morocco. Morocco has said, if Kenya does not put their act together, we are ready to step in and host the CHAN 2018. So we have that onslaught, and the decision is being made on next month, March 14th, in Addis Ababa. So I don't know if the minister and his committee are planning to tackle this from a technical perspective or from a political perspective, because technically we don't fit the bill. But politically, if he approached it from a political angle, maybe there might be a chance to still retain the hosting rights for the CHAN.
Nato, he talks about the technicalities and, in fact, infrastructure, saying that we really didn't deserve. Looking at all those studies at the disposal of CAF, we talk about Nyayo Stadium, talk about Eldoret, Kipchoge Keino, Kinoru, Mombasa, and Afra in Nakuru. Really, What do you make of that kind of infrastructure?
I concur with my brother Gabriel that it was political. But because when you look at our facilities, they're not up to the standards. And basing on what I heard from the Vice President of CAF, his statement and the way he made it's actually, if they go by the standards and our preparedness, then we don't deserve to host that tournament. But from his statements, from what I see is that come rain, come sunshine, Kenya is going to host.
But you in the media lauded that decision by CAF that, okay, it's time for Kenya now to host. And you are coming back here to say that maybe we don't have those facilities, Milton.
Well, I think there are two things that I would wish to clarify based on the information that I have in terms of the budget. Out of the 2.7 billion shillings, I think my understanding is, and the office of the CS can clarify this, that 200 million is going into the operationalizations of the LOC.
Which has already been
which is already in place,
LOC.
but for which I have reservations in terms of how it has been constituted. And then counties, I think the 4 counties have the responsibility to then work with the LOC and CAF.
Which counties?
We're talking about Nairobi for Nyayo
and Kasarani.
Nyayo and Kasarani.
Okay.
Of course, those are directly under Sports Kenya. Then you have Machakos, I think. You have Uasin Gishu County for Kip Keino. And then Nakuru, if I'm not wrong, and Meru. So basically what we are saying is that there are 2 levels of engagement in terms of how these facilities are going to be developed. My concern is in terms of how the planning for this stadium was not done with CAF, and CHAN standards in mind. You've seen what has happened to Buhungu in Kakamega in terms of the quality of work that was being done. So I think that is where my concern comes in terms of, do these counties in the initial plan have the capacity to be able to deliver stadiums that can host a CAF event? And that is where my reservations are.
Okay. Yeah. What are your reservations, apart from what we just said about...
Kenyans, we have these fascination with doing things last minute. And we saw that with the previous CECAFA, which we hosted in Kenya in 2013. Everything was last minute. The government was committing and paying last minute despite the availability of funds. So right now, for now, it may not look like a political, or strategic move to host a tournament, but we know at the last stretch, that's when people will start running.
So where is the disconnect? Because you talked about Kenya being a good economy.
Yes.
You talked about the infrastructure road and the hotel industry is at least fine.
Yes.
But then where is the disconnect?
Disconnect is sports in Kenya is treated as an afterthought. If you look at the budget, for instance, maybe the Ministry of Devolution, a new agency, maybe the NYS, is funded to 40 billion Kenya shillings. The entire Ministry of Sport is given 3 billion. Now, let me stop there so that I don't look like I'm lobbying. It's the minister who is supposed to be doing this work. I'm not the one who is supposed to be raising it. Minister should be doing it in cabinet. But when you get 3 billion shillings an annual for the financial year 2016-2017, and then you say 2.7 billion will go into hosting one tournament, you see there's a disconnect. The figures are, and numbers never lie. The figures are not making sense. Secondly, we have not seen active mobilization, participation, getting the corporates, getting the people part of the project to buy and to sell the idea. So now people look like they're talking to themselves and not talking to the people. Ultimately, it's the taxpayer who's going to foot this bill. So it's time you start engaging the public. But now there is only 2 weeks before the decision is made. Now, the technical committee was in Kenya. Whatever they did whatever they said is nothing new. They said Kenya, the infrastructure is not up to par. These things are known. But we have seen CAF in many instances bend over its rules to accommodate certain emergencies. For instance, in 2015, when Morocco pulled out of hosting the AFCON, and Equatorial Guinea had to step in as an emergency host. CAF bent some rules to accommodate that.
But because Equatorial Guinea had the infrastructure anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, but
The question of the disconnect, I think we really have to capture it well. It is the goodwill that you need, because I'll be honest with you, and perhaps Gaido is being soft on this. The truth of the matter is that tournaments or events of this magnitude require not just the goodwill from government, but the media as well as the general public. If you have stakeholders or a section of them who feel isolated or not being a part of it, whether real or remotely a perception, it is going to affect this. 9 months to an event, 6 months before the deadline set out by CAF, you're not seeing the hype in the media. You're not seeing it in social media.
Is it because the media has not been involved in
that? Is part of the problem. But look at it from, are the stakeholders, have they all been involved? Now, that question is, is for you to go out there and see it, but I don't see it myself. And I want the tournament to be held here very successfully, but everybody needs to be brought on board. You have 6 months to put all this infrastructure.
Just
it is
not coming in. We need to cross over and then come back to our discussion, because the CA is meeting the broadcasters in relation to election coverage. Let's just move over there and see what is happening. Ezra Chiloba addressing the media.
All those who are here, but seeing a full house like this today, I suspect it's because of the regulatory powers that Wanguzi has. So, and you don't know what might happen to your license if you go back, if you don't show up. But that's on a lighter note. Mine is really to put some of these things in perspective in as far as the Electoral Commission is concerned. Today, 161 days to the elections. 5 months and about 14 days. We've had a very intense period in the last 1 year or so. But it's important for us as key stakeholders to now focus on what lies ahead in the next 5 months. The right, or enjoy the right to free and fair elections. And we have always said that it's not fully
Okay, that is the CEO of Electoral Commission there, that is Ezra Chiloba, addressing the media and the media broadcasters. Guys, let's get back to our discussion quickly because we are running out of time. But then someone somewhere is listening to Gaido and is asking, is Isaiah to the CAF president regretting having given Kenya the hosting rights in 2015?
Well, the CAF is currently under pressure because they've been awarding just Francophone countries. And so actually in next month, we are going to have a kind of Addis Ababa scenario for the Africa Union, where I think Kenya had a candidate for one of the positions. And so it's going to play out again in football, where CAF is going to elect a new president. So we can latch on to that political curve and we can try and make some sense out of it. But as Milton is saying, I think there's a large section of the people that participated in getting the decision in Kenya who've been isolated. And their isolation has created this lukewarm response from CAF, because CAF is very non-committal. They're very coy, very cagey. Kenya is okay, we'll think about it, let's look at, let's discuss. But if they were to reactivate the same process that got the decision, then we can secure our position as a host, because having that tournament here, teams will be here, there'll be a lot of, glitz, excitement, and it will be just after the election, you need projects to unify the country. And this one actually, football does that, flawlessly. So if the current ministry just come off their high horse, engage the people who actually got the decision, ask them, are there any tricks up your sleeve where we can be able to maneuver, arm twist, and leverage with the connecting politics of the CAF presidential elections and maintain Kenya here. You know, it's time for people just to, to compromise.
Ken,
yes.
Looking at the study elsewhere, it would cost a minimum of 11 billion to put up a good stadium to host such tournaments. And then we are talking about 2.7 billion, which your fellow panelists are saying, you don't know if it is going into the operating costs of the tournament or what. Really, are we serious by putting only 2.7 billion in infrastructure?
I think this could be what we call like a stopgap measure. Because you see, like what cost us in 1996 was that there was no government commitment. But in this case, I think it has just been a measure to prove to CAF that Kenya's government is committed to that venture. And then the other thing, as my fellow panel is saying about the counties, the counties, there is a cooperation between the government and the counties.
Thank you. Let's go back again and have a listen to what Ezra Chiloba has to say. Okay.
Within the framework that has been set out by law, freedom of assembly, people should be free to campaign anywhere. People should be free to attend any meetings, and as far as their conscience drives them to do so. And freedom of the media. If you combine all this together, I think that is when we can say we are nurturing the ethos of democracy in our country. So as a commission, these are some of the critical values that we want to see going forward. But doing so, of course, comes with responsibility, especially for the media. We expect that during reporting, as you allow Kenyans to express themselves freely, it's important that we inform Kenyans using facts and figures. Being at the commission, sometimes I wonder, you know, most journalists who do not pay attention to detail. I'm always reminded that, of course, when someone is saying something, as a journalist, you should not be concerned so much in terms of what they're saying, but go behind, you know, what is informing what they're saying. That's what makes the story. But in a society like ours, I think we must be careful in terms of what we actually say, because we run the risk of perpetuating fake news. And that's not our business, especially as election managers. So how is the Commission prepared to aid media houses in terms of reporting? We have now set aside every Tuesday of the week to provide information as far as election preparedness is concerned. So every Tuesday of the week, we'll be having those sessions, either through live coverage, press briefing, or we could send out just an update to the different media houses. So we believe that that will provide perspective and necessary facts and figures on what is happening as we get closer to the elections. Of course, when it comes to engaging the citizens, we are keen in using media houses to perpetuate voter education campaign. We try to do that during the mass voter registration exercise. We are going to upscale that as we get closer to the elections, because now what is relevant is information for citizens to know in terms of what they need to do in as far as party nominations are concerned. And immediately thereafter, it will be about the elections. And I heard, I think engineer here mentioned earlier on that the essence of free coverage, I don't know how we package that while we buy airtime from media houses, we want to see a bit more of space.
Thank you very much. That is Ezra Chiloba addressing media owners and practitioners all there. We coming back to our discussion where we are talking about Kenya's preparedness or lack of it in terms of stadia. Remember, Kenya is to host the African Nation Championship in January next year. But before that, there will be the IAAF Youth Championship to be held also here in Nairobi, and several countries from around the world are coming in. But then there's been concern about the infrastructure and the general preparedness to stage those events. So because of time, we are going to get our final comments from our panelists. Right at my extreme left, Ken Nato is a freelance journalist. I don't know, Ken, do you see African World Youth Championship taking place in Kenya as well as CHAN in January?
Yeah. I'm foreseeing that they will take place because if I start with CHAN, just as my fellow panelists say that it's a political thing, and it was a political decision that took place for us. Because I remember the vice president of CAF said that they will come again in June. And then they dismissed the issue of Morocco. So at that point, since it's political, come what may, whether our facilities are in good shape or not,
they'll give us that.
And then with World Youth, we will also definitely host. It's also
Gaido, maybe your parting shot as we leave. Do you see it happening?
I hope it happens. I hope people can just nudge themselves to work and stop relying on fate and good luck. People have to work. Yes, so good luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
That has been Sports Chat on your Morning Express program. I've been your presenter, Robin Toskin, hosting, of course, Ken Nato, freelance journalist, experienced at that. And also there is Francis Gaido, an international match agent accredited by FIFA. And of course, Milton Nyakundi, a journalist also. He's done quite a lot in the world of sports and also politics. We hope that we'll have same time to indulge you in sports matters come next week on Monday. Until then, goodbye from me.